In this tutorial, we'll learn how to utilize two variable types, allowing users to pick a date and a time. So in our particular example here, we're going to link these two variables that we create to fields within our template that we have on the screen here. So what we basically want to have is a date and a time showing some information on this particular flyer. So to begin with, we're just going to create two variables by going in our InDesign window to our Invent tab, Variable tab, and then Add Variable. That gives us a separate window with a few different variables to choose from. We're going to start off with a date variable. Now, the setup of this is quite straightforward. We start off with the input of a name for this variable. And then underneath there, we have the option to choose a default date. So a default value for the date, which can either be a relative date, so an X amount of days from today, or if you check this button here, you can actually choose a specific date. You've also got the ability to choose the date format. So by default, we have two presets. We have UK format and US format. Alternatively, you can make a custom format as well. Moving further down, you have the ability optionally to assign some constraints. So if there is a minimum and a maximum date range that can be specified, you can input those here. Now, those are again linked to the relative date checkbox here. So if that's checked, it will say minimum date is X amount of days from today, maximum is X amount of days from today. If I check that box off, again, I have a date picker, so I can choose some specific dates. And then coming down even further, we have selectable days. So this is a sort of blanket setting where if you've got any of these unchecked, those dates will not be selectable from the date picker that we're creating. So for example, if I make it so it's just a weekend option, and we'll see how that looks in a few moments' time. I'm then going to create a second variable, which works in very much the same way, but this one is the time variable. We have a default value option here, so we can choose what's shown on the time picker by default when the product is first loaded. We can choose a date format, so either 24-hour clock or AM, PM. And we can choose a mode, so is it hours only, or do you want to be able to input minutes as well? Again, you have some optional constraints. So you can choose the earliest available time slot and the latest available time. So for example, if I say that we're able to choose a time between 9 AM and 3 PM, anything that sits outside of those ranges will not be available for us to choose. We then hit save, and as we've done with other variable types in this video series, we just need to link those variables to some fields on our actual template itself. So first of all, if I select one of the text frames that I want to populate, go across to the Variables tab and make sure that this is enabled, which in this case it is already, but this, if it's enabled rather than disabled, that means it's now dynamic and can be driven by Infigo Invent. I'm just going to map this to one of our variables and choose the date picker. So now whatever information is shown or selected in the date picker will display in this field. I'm going to do the same with the time picker. So I've chosen a different text frame and then linking that to a different variable. I'm then going to export that as a MEX file and import it into our MegaEdit product. So that's our template loaded into MegaEdit. If I zoom in there, you can see that we have our populated text frames, and they match what's been shown over on the right-hand side in the form, where we have two variables, one showing the date picker and one showing the time picker. And as I change those specifications, the time and the date on the artwork itself update as well.